بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله النبي الكريم قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من كان له سعة ولم يضحي فلا يقربن مصلانا أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Respected brothers and sisters, for the past 2 weeks we've been discussing Luqman radiallahu anh. We were speaking about the advice of Luqman radiallahu anh as mentioned in the Quran. But today we'll take a break, inshallah. We'll be discussing, because Eid al-Adha is coming up very quickly, subhanAllah. It's coming up in about 2 weeks. And so I found it very pertinent and very important to mention the rulings regarding to one of the main activities of Eid al-Adha, which is Qurbani. The reason being that unfortunately there's a lot of misconception and there's a lot of misinformation being spread around Qurbani and relating to Qurbani. And therefore, inshallah, we'll be discussing Qurbani, we'll be discussing the virtues of Qurbani, and then we'll be discussing rulings relating to Qurbani, and then finally the method of Qurbani as well, inshallah. So first and foremost, we'll discuss the reasons why we do Qurbani. Right? The reasons why we do Qurbani. Right? So there are about 3 reasons I'll mention today that we do Qurbani. The first reason being that this is one of the Qurbani is one of the sha'air of deen. It's one of the symbols, the key symbols of deen. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَالْبُدَنَ جَعَلْنَاهَا لَكُم مِّن شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ لَكُمْ فِيهَا خَيْرٌ. Allah Ta'ala says these sacrificial animals, these animals that you sacrifice, they are from the side of Allah Ta'ala a sha'air, one of the sha'air of deen, one of the key symbols of deen. Right? So Qurbani is one of the key symbols of deen, which differentiates us from others. Right? This differentiates us from others, and therefore it's extremely important that we participate in this Qurbani because of this, the significance that Allah Ta'ala has placed behind this Qurbani. Right? And the reason why I'm mentioning this is unfortunately there are people who don't consider it to be as sacred or don't consider it to be such an important thing, and they lay it off and they ignore it and they try to get the quote-unquote burden off their shoulders. And so inshallah we'll be discussing all of this, inshallah. The first reason why we celebrate and we perform the Qurbani, number one, is because it's one of the sha'air of deen. It's one of the symbols of deen, right? Such symbols that you cannot make fun of, such symbols that represent the deen. If a person makes fun of one of the sha'air of deen, right, then that person, it's possible that he becomes a kafir, becomes a disbeliever, because of making fun of or disbelieving in one of the sha'air of deen, right? So this is one of them, Qurbani. The second reason why we perform the Qurbani is because it's a commemoration of the sacrifices of Ibrahim alayhi salam. As we all know the sacrifice of Ibrahim alayhi salam throughout his entire life, from the time when he was young and his father or uncle in some narrations, when they would reject or they would not believe in Allah Ta'ala, right? From that time, from when they threw him into the fire, and then Allah Ta'ala tested him with so many other trials and tribulations, and amongst near the end, once he reached old age, Allah Ta'ala blessed him with children. Allah Ta'ala blessed him with children, and then after blessing him with children, Allah Ta'ala commanded him to sacrifice his son. And we all know the story. We all know the sacrifices Ibrahim alayhi salam went through to show and to prove that he is actually the Khalilullah. He's the friend of Allah Ta'ala, the close friend of Allah Ta'ala. He passed with flying colors. And so his actions serve as a guideline for us. What should we do? Right? How can we gain closer to Allah Ta'ala? By sacrificing those things which are the most important to us. So Rasulullah was once asked by the companions, Ya Rasulullah, ma hadhi al-adahi? Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what is this udhiyah? What are these sacrificial animals? Why do we do this? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said one simple thing. He said, Sunnatu abikum Ibrahim. That's it. This is the sunnah, this is the practice of your father Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? We take Ibrahim alayhi salam to be our father. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam, he as a commemoration for all of his activities, for his continuous sacrifice for the deen of Allah Ta'ala, whether it was his family, whether it was his own self, whether it was his children, whatever it may be, he was ready to sacrifice everything for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. And Allah Ta'ala didn't allow them to be sacrificed. Allah Ta'ala didn't allow his wife, his children to be sacrificed. Allah Ta'ala protected them. Allah Ta'ala simply wants us to take that step forward, and then Allah Ta'ala will continue to take care of us. Anyways, the second reason, there's a lot to discuss today. So the second reason why we celebrate Qurbani, or why we perform this Qurbani, is because it's a commemoration of the Sunnah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the third reason why we practice this is because it's the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's narrated from Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma that he mentions that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stayed in Medina for 10 years. He stayed in Medina for about 10 years. And every single year he would do Qurbani. Every single year he would do Qurbani without fail. So there are some practices which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do, and then sometimes he would leave it out. Sometimes he would leave out certain actions to show that they are not wajib. But this action he never left out. He never left out this act of Qurbani. So inshallah, these are the reasons why we practice this Qurbani. So now we'll move ahead, we'll speak about the virtues and then some rulings related to Qurbani. Just a disclaimer before we carry on, generally I don't like, on a general note, I don't like speaking about masail or rulings on the mimbar, on the pulpit, or on Jummah day. Generally it's a day of motivation to motivate us towards worshipping Allah Ta'ala throughout the rest of the week. But again, there's a lot of miscommunication, and I've seen this, eyewitness to many of the misunderstandings related to Qurbani, and therefore I thought it to be very necessary that we discuss this, inshallah. So anyways, we'll be discussing based off of Hanafi fiqh, as I'm a Hanafi, and majority of us sitting here are Hanafi as well. So inshallah, we'll be discussing regarding the Hanafi madhab as well. Regarding the virtues, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Ma amila adamiyyun min amalin yawm an-nahri ahabba ila Allah min ihraq ad-dam." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that on the day of Eid, on the day of Nahr, right? On the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says there's no action more beloved in the sight of Allah Ta'ala than the slaughtering of animals. This is the most beloved action in the sight of Allah Ta'ala. And then he carries on and he says that on the day of judgment, this sheep, this cow, this camel, whatever you slaughter, these things will come with this horns, it will come with this hair, and it will come with this hooves, meaning it will come with the entire body. The entire animal will be reconstructed and then weighed on the day of judgment. And all of that, however heavy and however big that animal was, that's how much reward will be on your scale of good deeds. Right? And another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was asked, right? So this is a continuation of the previous hadith. So the Sahaba, they asked, Ya Rasulullah, what do we get if we slaughter these animals? What do we get out of it? فَمَا لَنَا فِيهَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. What do we get out of it? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, بِكُلِّ شَعْرَةٍ حَسَنَةٍ. He says, for every single hair, for every single fiber, right, there will be a good deed. So the Sahaba, they asked, Ya Rasulullah, they were very inquisitive. The Sahaba, they asked the questions on our behalf, alhamdulillah. And so they asked, Ya Rasulullah, fasuf, what about wool? On sheep, right, you have a lot of wool and a lot of hair. So they asked, Ya Rasulullah, what about the wool? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, بِكُلِّ شَعْرَةٍ مِنَ الصُّوفِ حَسَنَةٍ. Or every single fiber of hair from the sheep, from any animal, every single one will be counted as a good deed. Can you imagine how many thousands, possibly even more, rewards we will get for every single animal that we slaughter? Right? So these are some of the virtues that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks out. Now there's also one very scary hadith, a warning for us all. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions, "Man kana lahu sa'atun falam yudhi." the person who had the ability, walam yudahi, and the person who had the ability to slaughter an animal. He had the ability, he had the financial capability, he had the resources. Walam yudahi, and it was also necessary for him, but he did not slaughter. He did not slaughter. He had the resources, he had the ability, but he did not slaughter. فَلَا يَقْرَبَنَّ مُصَلَّانَا. Rasulullah says that person should not come to the Eidgah. He shouldn't come for the Eid namaz. Can you imagine? Rasulullah is saying, don't come. Right? Don't come to the Eidgah if you don't slaughter while you have the ability. Right? So this is a warning for us all. That if we have the ability, make sure you do this Qurbani. So we carry on, and now we'll go into the rulings. Right? Upon whom is Qurbani wajib? So Qurbani is wajib according to us, right? Qurbani is wajib. And now who? Upon whom is Qurbani wajib? Right? So number one, the first condition is the person must be baligh. A person must be mature. That's the first condition. So Qurbani is not obligatory, it's not wajib on a minor. Now we're speaking about minors in Islam, not minors in America. We're speaking about minors in Islam. Minors in Islam are considered those who are not mature, who are not baligh. If you're baligh, then you're considered an adult in Islam. All the ahkam of Islam fall upon you. So if you have, if you have funds more than $5,000, this is the second condition. The second condition is that the nisab amount is more than $5,000. If you have $5,000 beyond your necessities, beyond what's necessity, if you have $5,000, right, then you must give Qurbani. And this is actually more stringent. Right? This is actually more stringent than the zakat. Zakat, you have to pass an entire year, and it doesn't have to be necessarily your hawaj asliya, right? Anything, it's not only beyond your hawaj asliya, right? For example, you have a second car, you have a third car, you have a second house, you use all of those, that's fine. That's not considered in zakat. But in Qurbani, that's considered. In Qurbani, that is considered. And so if you have $5,000 more than your basic necessities on the 3 days, any of the 3 days, 10th, 11th, or 12th, any of that period, if you have more than $5,000, you must give Qurbani. At any time, let's say you're poor on the 10th day, but on the 11th day you had more than $5,000, you must give that Qurbani. Right? So that's number one. The first condition is that you must be mature. So it's not necessary on children. Right? It's not necessary on children, but doesn't mean that parents cannot. Parents can do it. You can sacrifice on behalf of your children. Parents can sacrifice. So for example, many families, they have the tradition that we will sacrifice on behalf of our children as well, even though it's not necessary for them. Or I'll sacrifice on behalf of, my parents. It's not necessary for them, but I'll still do it. Right? So number one, the first condition is that you must be mature. Right? If you're not mature, if you're not baligh, then Qurbani is not necessary on them. But if a parent, if they want to do it, they can willingly. The second condition is that they must have more than $5,000 in any, right? Either in gold, in cash, whatever it may be. Many women, understand this, many women don't have cash, but they have gold. If they have gold exceeding $5,000, they must give Qurbani. The third condition is that the person must be sane, also easily understood. Cannot be insane. The fourth condition, right? The fourth condition is that the person must not be traveling. If a person is musafir, Qurbani is not wajib on them. Again, if a person is musafir, they're traveling, Qurbani is not wajib on them. So these are the four conditions for Qurbani to be wajib on you. Now, when is the time of Qurbani? Qurbani begins after the Salah on the 10th day. So the first day of Eid, is the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, which is yet to be determined, right? So the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, after the Eid Salah, you can begin your Qurbani. If there's multiple Eid Salawat taking place, after the first one is finished, you can start your Qurbani. So again, the beginning from the 10th day after the Eid Salah until just before sunset of the 12th day. So you have 3 days. You have 3 days to complete your sacrifice. 3 full days. And in the 11th, 10th and 11th, you have nights as well. If it's bright, if it's possible, most people here don't do it at night, but it is permissible. You can do it at night also. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. So long as you can fully see the animal and you're not going to hurt or abuse the animal, that's fine. So long as you can do everything properly, you can do it at night as well. But again, the time begins from the 10th after the Eid Salah until just before the 12th sunset. Inshallah, everyone understands, inshallah. Now, what about which day is the best to perform the Qurbani? The scholars, they mention it's best to perform it on the 10th day. If not, then the 11th is better. If not, then the 12th, right? But it's better to do on the first day. But for our situation, the current situation we're in now, my advice would be don't do it on the 10th day. Rather, you know what, take it easy and maybe do it on the 11th day. It'll be less crowding and less, less traffic and all of that. So you can delay it. It's perfectly fine. Again, it's better to do it on the first day, but you can also delay it. It's perfectly fine. Now, what about Qurbani overseas? Right? When you do a Qurbani overseas, I'll discuss this quickly. Qurbani overseas, the scholars, they say that the Qurbani, that the local time where the Qurbani will take place, that time will be considered. So for example, right, Qurbani is taking place in Bangladesh. I'm doing my Qurbani in Bangladesh, let's say, hypothetically, right? So Qurbani, they can do it once their Eid Salah is finished. From their 10th after Eid until the 12th. Some scholars say from the local, from where the person who upon whom it's necessary to slaughter, but most of the scholars, they say from where the animal is being slaughtered. So if the animal is being slaughtered in a different time zone, so from where that animal that is being slaughtered, the time zone and the Eid, after the Eid Salah of that day, that area. And by the way, if you have any questions, inshallah, feel free to speak to me later, inshallah. I've done my research, trust me. I know what I'm speaking about. When I say something, I don't say out of my pocket, right? I have references, I have everything. So please, if you want to speak to me about something, you can speak to me after Salah, inshallah. And if you have more questions also, you can also speak to me. You can text me. Most of you have my number, inshallah. You can message me, inshallah. I'll answer your questions, inshallah. So the time, overseas. One more thing also, regarding overseas. It is permissible to do it overseas. It is permissible, right? But it can either be more rewarding or it can be less rewarding based on a person's intention. If a person intends that I'm doing Qurbani overseas, why? Because I just want to get rid of the hassle. I don't want the hassle of Qurbani. Then it's not, it's dislike for that person, and they should change their intention. But if a person makes intention that, Ya Allah, I'm doing Qurbani overseas because they're more needy in those areas, then inshallah he'll get more reward as well, inshallah. So it's based on the intention, and each person knows their own intention. I don't know your intention, but you know your own intention, that I'm doing it either to get rid of the hassle or to gain more reward and feed more needy people. My recommendation when it comes to doing Qurbani overseas is that you can do Qurbani overseas, but at least do a couple of them here. At least do one or more here. So for example, you have a large family, right? Let's say, for example, you have, let's say, you, your siblings, and their children, everyone, right? In that case, at least do maybe 2 or 3 Qurbanis here, do the rest back home, or do the rest somewhere else, right? With the intention that, Ya Allah, this is for the benefit of the most needy people that I know, right? It doesn't have to be back home. It can be in Yemen, it can be in any country where you think they need it, where you think they need it the most, right? But also a very important thing to highlight, subhanAllah, time is flying. We might need to make a second part of this. But anyways, one very important thing to know is that please make sure that you get your Qurbani done by a trustworthy organization. There are people who say they're going to do the Qurbani, but they don't do the Qurbani. And they may send you pictures of the same animal that they're slaughtering. So please be very careful. Make sure you do it through a reliable organization, or do it through people you know personally, right? Otherwise, please make sure that it's being done properly. The age of the animals, we'll quickly go through, inshallah. The age of the animals, a goat and sheep must be at least 1 year. Listen to this very carefully. I'll explain why I'm saying this specifically now. Goat and sheep must be at least 1 year. Regarding the sheep, if it's more than 6 months, but it has the structure, it looks like a 1-year-old, then it's fine. Regarding bulls, cows, buffaloes, it must be at least 2 years. It must be how much? At least 2 years. Be very careful. Yesterday, I went to visit a few slaughterhouses. Yesterday, I'm talking about yesterday. And I visited them. Most of the animals were below 24 months, meaning they were below 2 years. So if you do a qurbani of an animal that's below 2 years, I'm speaking about a cow or a bigger animal. If you do it below 2 years, your qurbani is not accepted. You know what's funny? I told the person, the farmer, I told him this. I said, this is it's not accepted based off of hadith. It's a clear hadith. It's not accepted if it's below 2 years. The farmer, mashallah, he's giving me fatwa. He's telling me, no, no, if it's 1.5 years and it looks like it's 2 years, it's okay. And that's when I hung up. I said, okay, I'm not in the time to debate. I'm not here to debate farmers, subhanAllah. So, but there are many people who don't know this. So be very careful. Make sure your animal is, if you're doing the bigger animal, right, the cow, buffalo, or bull, it must be 2 years. Below 2 years is not accepted. Sheep and goat must be at least 1 year. And if they are below, if they look like and they're big and healthy, then even if they're above 6 months, then it's okay. But they must be big and healthy. But on the safe side, just make sure they're 1 year old. And for camels, they must be 5. But generally, we don't do camels. But camel must be 5 years old at least. Now, a couple of important things we'll conclude on this, inshallah, based on time. Goat is sufficient for 1 share. Goat, sheep, and all of those are only sufficient for 1 share. Cow, bull, buffalo, these are sufficient for 7 shares. So 7 people can partake in one big animal. Another very important thing to note, you cannot substitute qurbani with money. You cannot give sadaqah, and that will not suffice for your qurbani. You must give qurbani. Now, for example, in this situation, of course, it's unprecedented, and subhanAllah, it's never been like this. So, for example, let's say you're sick or someone is sick and they're afraid to go, then subhanAllah, then do it overseas with the intention of reward, with the intention of the needy people, but do not just substitute money. Do not substitute qurbani with money. You cannot do that. I mentioned the reasons why we do qurbani, and that's why it's not possible to substitute qurbani with money. This is an example of salah. For example, it's necessary for you to pray salah. You can't just give $100 and I don't have to pray. It doesn't work like that, right? So you have to give your qurbani. Also, it's preferable. Listen to this very carefully. It's preferable to divide your meat into 3 portions. Again, it's mustahab. It is not wajib. Many people, they misunderstand. They think it's wajib, it's necessary, but it's only mustahab. It's only recommended to divide your share into 3 parts. You can divide 1 for yourself and your family, 1 for your friends and family, extended, and then 1 for the poor and needy, right? So you can, it's possible. But if you want to keep them all for yourself, that's perfectly fine. There's no issue with that. 3 more things, inshallah, quickly. The animal must be free from major defects. So the animal can't be blind. It can't be missing a tail. It can't be, the horn can't be broken from the roots. If the horn never grew, then that's fine. But if the horn is broken from the roots, then it's not permissible. It can't be sick. It can't have no teeth, right? So it must be free from major defects. Also, one important thing, if an animal is castrated, meaning it doesn't have, the ala, right? The tools, whatever, the animal, if it doesn't have that, it's still fine. It's still fine. You can still slaughter those animals. And if an animal is pregnant, that's also fine. Many people are under the assumption you cannot slaughter a pregnant animal. You can, it's fine. If an animal is in its late pregnancy, it's into its late pregnancy stage, then it's makruh, it's disliked, but it's still permissible, right? So pregnant animals, you can slaughter them. And there's no qada. Lastly, there's no qada of miss qurbani. If anyone hasn't done qurbani for the past few years, there's no qada. All you have to do is you have to take the current value of the animal and you must give in charity. So whatever the current value is, you must give that in charity. So it's not really qada. It's not qada, but it's remuneration, or it's just giving that amount into sadaqah. And actually, one more thing I wanted to mention, of course, you should take care of the animal, make sure the animal is well taken care of. Don't cause unnecessary pain. Do not cause unnecessary pain to the animal. Don't slaughter other animals in front of other animals. There's so much more to say, but subhanAllah, I want to finish this, inshallah. You must say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and then slaughter the animal. Do not skin the animal immediately. Do not skin the animal immediately. Give it a few minutes, let the animal completely die, and then skin the animal, because sometimes the animal is still alive for a few minutes. And lastly, the meat should be distributed based off of weight, not estimation. Do not estimate and distribute the meat. You have a cow, do not distribute it by estimating. Oh, this looks similar. No, it's not that hard. Get a scale and weigh every single portion and then give them out. Do not do by estimation. Rather, you must do by weighing the animals. Inshallah, this is all we'll discuss for today. Again, we'll conclude on the hadith. Rasulullah says that if you have the ability and you do not slaughter the animal, then don't come to the Eidgah. May Allah Ta'ala save us from falling under that wa'id and that warning. And may Allah Ta'ala grant us the ability to practice upon whatever has been said. Jazakumullah khairah. Subhanallah bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. You can, adhan will be given and then we can